In today's part of my presentation, I will be talking upon various dimensions of quality in education and how we can make teaching effective. So primarily there are many dimensions of the quality in education. One is the academic quality or the academic quality assurance, which deals with achieving the learning outcomes, that is what students have ultimately learned from the programs and the courses. Followed by a second dimension which talks about the institutional, administrative and supportive functions without which the quality assurance is not possible. To name a few, we can have the example of a hostel, catering facilities, parking, transportation and other administrative process which are in cycle, so on and so forth. So quality assurance is a generic term used in the educational institutes which leads itself to many interpretation. So we cannot have one definition at all. So the word standards is employed in a variety of ways across different countries with various different institutes ranging from narrowly defined regulatory requirements to the learning outcomes or more generalized description of the good practices. The word has diverse meanings in the local context of the national schools and the higher education systems. The quality assurance is essentially a set of policies and the guidelines for ensuring the compliance of the learning outcomes and the continual performance improvement in all the educational institutes. So we talked about the European Educational Network, the definition given by it as far as the quality assurance is concerned. So the providers of education have a prime responsibility to deliver the quality of their provision and its assurance, and the interest of society in quality and the standards of education needs to be safeguarded. Not only this, the quality of the academic programs needs to be developed, improved and other beneficiaries of the education, because if the systems are not good, improved and developed, it is going to have a wrong impact, a wasteful impact on the organizations at large when you talk about the higher education institutes. So there needs to be a very efficient and effective system in place as far as the academic programs are concerned. So the transparency, the encouragement of the quality culture, the processes in place and the accountability process and demonstrating the quality at home as well as the internationally are some highlighting features to ensure the quality assurance. The processes, the programs, the plans, etc., which are in place to achieve the effective, the support of the higher education institute as far as the quality assurance is concerned, it should not in any case suppress that diversity and the innovation. Then we talked about there are four aspects. The attributes of the students, they should have the learning abilities, prior knowledge, readiness levels, their goals and interest, followed by the institutional framework. This means that there should be a true vision and mission statements, the teaching process, the learning policies, the human resources which they are going to hire, the institutional and facilities, and finally the institutional system and the governance in place. So all these factors, they play a vital role as far as the quality assurance is concerned. Now there are some other enablers also which we name it as external factors like the education policy, the curriculum designed, the standards, the accreditation, the public expectations, the national resources for education and the labor market demands. They also impact the quality assurance factors. So as a result of these enablers which we have addressed, the fourth is the student learning outcomes, which is relevant to the educational programs being offered by the educational institutes, like creating emotional skills, values and the social benefits. So let us now talk about the quality assurance and the educational framework. This particular framework will provide a broad picture of what an education entire framework will look like, which is based on the outcome based education. So, this needs a very, very good elaboration as far as the KPI is concerned. that is the key performance indicators. If any of the higher education institution wants to achieve this success, so you should always have the key performance indicators in place which are measurable in nature. That is, there should be a measurable system and you should be able to quantify the key performance indicators, and in short we call them as KPIs at all 4 aspects. The quality is a dynamic concept. The operating environment is constantly changing due to their wider provisions, and the stakeholders' expectations are usually constantly increasing. So as a matter of fact, what I want to reiterate here is that if the quality parameters are quantifiable, then it is very easy to achieve them also, because you have certain numbers in front of you and you have some expectations in front of you which are constantly evolving, changing, increasing. So when you talk about the quality systems, it is a dynamic concept because the environment around us is constantly changing. So are the expectations of the various stakeholders. So when looking at the quality, we must remember that our perspective and the quality is always a relative one and not an absolute one. That is, we should always try to have a coverage of the quality assurance parameters in relation to the other one, not in absolute terms. So this has to be kept in mind. So whenever you are moving for the quality, remember that our perspective is always a relative and not an absolute one. The regular adoption, upgradation, changes are always required at all levels. For example, you're making a policy today. So that policy, was before the COVID-19 occurred. So that policy definitely needs a revision as far as the post-pandemic period is concerned, because the pandemic has taught us a various different digital paradigms. So that particular policy which was made in March has to be revised to make it live and to make it in place so that it can help us in achieving the quality standards and the quality assurance. So it has to be kept in mind all the stakeholders who are linked and associated with building of the policy framework, programs and the process. There has to be a constant and continuous upgradation and the changes to be in place if we want to achieve the success as far as the quality assurance and the various other parameters are concerned. So the quality can be defined by taking different dimensions into consideration and simultaneously, and here is the viewpoint primarily of all stakeholders, not that of the service providers. So whenever we are building a educational framework in place, we have to keep the overall expectations of all the stakeholders, including the service providers, including the persons who are associated and linked with it, in absolute terms, constantly revised, constantly upgraded, keeping into consideration the viewpoint of all the stakeholders. And instead of output, the emphasis should be on the process of service provision itself. That is, the service which you are providing should be par excellence. What is the output you are going to produce out of that process should be focused. If the output is not good, what are you talking about the quality then? So, you have to be very strategic in nature as far as the planning and formation of the key performance indicators are concerned. So the quality assurance system of any institution includes the policies, the regulations, which is the highest level of documentation. Then comes the system and the processes relevant to the policies and the regulations, and finally in the hierarchy are documented the KPIs or the key performance indicators. So let us take an example of say a strategic planning of the quality assurance and KPI is concerned of the admission policy. When you talk about the admission policy, it mentions the criteria for admission, like it should be fair, it should be strictly based on merit and it should be on the timely basis. So these parameters have to be kept in mind whenever you are building a good policy relating to the admission of the students of the higher education institution. So these are the basic principles. Then comes the question of how will you achieve this? How we do it is called as a procedure and the set of processes and the systems, and finally there is a need to measure the performance or the outcome of the processes. These are measured by establishing the KPIs, and the key performance indicators in this case would be that there should not be any kind of a delay in the admissions, and the percentage of the students not complying with the admission criteria, and so on. So we cannot take the students who doesn't be a part of it, or they doesn't fall into the category of the admission policy which we have made. So let us now talk about the strategic planning which I referred here. So there are some very important components relating to the strategic plan. The first is your mission. It answers the question of why we exist or the reasons of existence of an institute. The second is your vision. Vision namely answers to what we ought to be, that is, it focuses on the future journey, followed by the goals. The goals are the major milestones or the answers to which we must achieve to get the success. The next is your objective and the outcomes. So they are the specific results expressed in measurable terms. They are also expressed in the terms of KPIs. Then comes the point of initiatives. So they are the planned programs to achieve the objectives, and they are the major components of the strategic plan. The other aspect is about the strategic plan of educational programs. So it starts with the program mission statement, which is a concise statement of the general values and the principles which guide the curriculum. It sets the tone and the philosophical position from which follow the learning outcomes and the objectives. So primarily when you talk about the components of the strategic plan, each and every part of the plan needs to be meticulously done. The various aspects which have an impact on the higher education system has to be embedded, and the vision mission statements have to be concise and crisp, followed by what particular principles are you following which guide in framing of the curriculum, and of course the philosophical position, the learning outcomes and the objectives. The program mission statement should define the broad purpose, what the program is aiming to achieve, followed by describe the community which it is designed to serve, and also state the values and guiding principles which define its standards. The program and the course outcome statements are the other quantifiable results or the learning outcomes to be achieved at the end of each program, each course, each chapter or each topic. So if this is done as per the practicalities and the nitty-gritties which are being linked with the industry and academia interface, day is not far that every higher education institute will be striving on the path of success, because the learning outcomes is the need of today, that what actually you intend your students to learn after the completion of each program, each course, each chapter and each topic. So all these programs and the outcomes have to be focused upon when you're talking about achieving of the strategic plan and the planning is concerned. So these take into consideration the Bloom's taxonomy and the Solow taxonomy as discussed in the previous lectures. So the targets are the required value of these outcomes. The teaching methods will broadly define the methods that the teachers will use to achieve the targets. The assessment methods will define how the learning outcomes will be measured, and these aspects have already defined in the earlier chapters of constructive alignment. Not only this, once the key performance indicators are defined, they are measured through some IT systems for something called dashboards, and they are usually measured on monthly and semester basis as the case may be. And this may include a very important parameter called student feedback index, delay in submission of exam results, and the Bloom's cognitive, affective and psychomotor achievement as a KPI on the scale of 1 to 5 and so on. So this dashboard is regularly monitored and used for accountability of teachers and the institutional managers, and for the further analysis and improvement of process and systems. So if we are able to achieve the Bloom's cognitive, affective and psychomotor achievement, and of course that particular dashboard is there to find out the accountability of the teachers, so definitely this is a very important tool for the improvement of the process as well as of the systems. So we have today discussed a very important topic called key performance indicators. So let us have a deep into it. The KPI or the key performance indicators is a very important topic. It can further classified into two categories. One is a leading KPI and the other is a lagging KPI. So let us discuss this one by one. What is a leading KPI? The leading KPI are also known as a process KPI, and the lagging KPI are known as the outcome related KPI or result related KPI. So one talks about the process and the other talks about the output. So the process should be good and the output should also be good. So these are the key important aspects which we have discussed. So there are some process related KPI examples, like for example the percentage of qualified students intake, the percentage of the competent teachers, the percentage of the teachers using correct teaching methods. So these are the process related KPIs because they are instrumental in getting the good output. And similarly, let us talk about some process related KPI with more examples and elaborations. Like for example, timely completion of the lesson plans, percentage of the practicals completed, percentage of the students cheating and making errors. So these are the examples of the system KPI. Let us now talk about the output KPI or the lagging KPI. Like for example, the output is that the university ranking improves, the university brand image improves. There are very important aspects in relation to salary which is being offered to a graduate who has graduated from your particular university. The percentage of the students getting the jobs even just after a month of the graduation. So this is a big success, and of course the average duration of getting the jobs and so on. So these are the output based KPIs and needs a particular attention of all the higher education institute policy framework builders. If you have a good university ranking, this is a good output, followed by a good image, good competence, good jobs, less gestation period between completion of the jobs and getting the jobs. So the average salary which is being offered to a university graduate. So overall, this is a very good and a win-win situation as far as the process KPI and the output KPIs are concerned. So highly qualified versus high quality in quality assurance. So do you agree with this quote? Highly qualified does not mean high quality. So highly qualified refers to the teachers qualified. It could be a master's degree, it could be a PhD degree, or a similar one that is sufficient to ensure that they are able to achieve the learning outcomes effectively. And I think you will agree of the course not. So teachers could be highly qualified but may not teach effectively, may not be able to communicate effectively, and we will ensure and judge a teacher as to if we are able to achieve the learning outcomes, if the students are able to grasp what the teacher is saying in the class. So how to make a good the student learning outcomes. So how to make a good exams relevant to SLOs, so that in case of a teacher will have a high degree in a subject but may not be efficient and effective in delivering the subject matter. Even for that matter, the teachers who are mediocre as far as their academic achievement is concerned, but they are very beautifully able to deliver the subject matter to the students. So here lies the difference. So what we are looking for? We are looking for a good teacher with good deliverables and a good feedback from the students. So this is what is going to make a lot of difference as far as the achievement of the student learning outcome is concerned. So when someone is writing a student learning outcomes, they usually make them to the highest Bloom's taxonomy, that is creativity, synthesis, evaluation, and even the application for the analysis level. So we must comprehend this level very nicely, that when it comes to the student learning outcomes, we have to reject completely the rote learning and move on to the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy, that is embedding the creativity, synthesis, and the evaluation to the best possible extent and the level. But the point is, someone should be able to validate whether the teacher knows the subject matter or not. If the teacher sets the goal, that is, if he or she will be able to achieve the target, and the teacher knows the application level and will be able to target and achieve the target. So let us see in a physics formula, F is equal to ma. Does the teacher himself or herself knows the practical application of this formula, and whether he knows about the real-time application of using this formula? If the answer is no, of course, the effectiveness of the teacher is not there. So as a matter of fact, it is the responsibility of the teachers first to undertake all the serious steps in terms of gaining knowledge, in terms of even knowing the practical aspects of that particular thing, and only then he or she can put some targets so that the students are able to comprehend and achieve the quality assurance and furthering the quality and ever increasing quality assurance into the system. Similarly, there is another famous topic in science called photosynthesis. Does the teacher know this topic practically, and whether it is applied in the real world with the practical details? And there is another interesting study which states that 80% of the teachers teach the way they are taught and even use the text and the examples of their own teachers from whom they have studied. So all the more the teaching responsibility is enhanced in case of this particular example. The students will follow their teachers, so the teachers should put in their best efforts in terms of acquiring knowledge, in terms of acquiring skills, in terms of acquiring the practical examples, so that they can set an example in the class and the students will be able to achieve the excellence which is the need of today. So, from the yesterday to the former teacher of what we are today, we should always implement the Bloom's taxonomy in our teaching pedagogies. Now, another point in which the subject is assigned to a professor in a university. So, there are many disparities seen in many universities regarding the subject granted to a teacher and the subject of his specialization. And I'll give an example of university of say central universities. So in that case, the teachers who are on the contractual basis or ad hoc basis, they are designated a particular position and the timetable according to the convenience of the teacher in charge. So irrespective of their specialization, they are supposed to teach what they are given. So here there is a disparity between their specialization and what subjects they are given to taught. So this creates a lot of gap between what is required and what the actual scenario is all about. So in some countries there is a teaching license to teach a particular subject only at a school level, but in many countries this is not, sometimes the teaching physics based on the subject of his or her expertise. So in this case we can say that you should be highly qualified in a particular subject, but the issue is that he or she is not teaching that particular subject. So this is a very sad state of affairs, that the teachers are denied the subject of their specialization, and there is a increasing conflict, and they of course then whatever are the outcomes which are ensured after the teaching is not achieved. So basically we should all make it a practice, see the specialization of the teacher and then assign the subjects according to the most effective manner, and we should always put forward the emphasis from memorization of the facts to the application of the facts, to the creativity level, to enhance the reasoning level, to increase the conceptual understanding, because all these parameters is going to enhance and make the teaching more effective. We should put place more of the group work, more of the case studies and the discussions. It is definitely essentially going to be a part of the student offering and achieving the student learning objectives. We should avoid the favoritism, personality biasness, family background, ethnic background, gender biasness. They should never fall into the dimensions of a good teacher. So we should always try and improve the dimensions of a good teaching, and this is going to definitely spill over the quality assurance for the higher education institutes.